In case you didn't know, the next Avatar series got leaked last week and is making some seriously radical changes to the series, and judging by my comment section, the response to this series has been overwhelmingly negative. People have been harassing the original creators on Instagram over these leaks, which is just completely absurd. Please don't do that. Obviously, some of this criticism is valid, but the vast majority of it is just people hating just to hate. Honestly, I don't see it. I think the series has a solid chance of being good, and I'm really excited for it. I will be going over why all of the outrage is a bit misguided later, but first, I do want to do a quick little recap just so everyone is on the same page. The working title for the series is called Avatar 7 Havens and is a direct sequel to The Legend of Korra. Korra, poor Korra, you get enough hate as is, but for whatever reason, she is forced to destroy the world, which ends up creating an apocalyptic wasteland. After this cataclysmic event, people take refuge in shanty towns called havens. I want to emphasize that the setting from what we've seen is not modern apocalyptic, like Fallout, but more fantastical and low tech. These aren't just called havens, they are literal havens from the wastelands. Anyone with bending is drafted into the military to fight against the violent lightning storms and sandstorms generated by it. The new avatar, or should I say avatars, are the 9-year-old twins Pavi and Nisha, who both actually have the capability to bend all 4 elements. Now, these leaks have come from a variety of different sources, including 2 younger kids that were part of an audience testing that took photos and video evidence of what they were seeing. The other leaks come from a 4chan user who was probably a Paramount employee or an intern or someone who was close to the show's production who just decided to leak everything. He leaked concept art, reference images, storyboards, audition scripts. The leaks are almost as 100% real as you can get. You can look up the code name of the series and find people who have been working on it for years. You can also find public casting calls all the way back from last year, which match everything from the leaks. So either this was the most elaborate hoax of all time with thousands of dollars spent, or this is real. Anyway, like I said earlier, the response on the internet has been horrible, but I wanted to take a stand today and defend the show, something that no one else is doing, and I want to point out why maybe changing these things could actually end up being a good thing. From all of the feedback that I've seen, I'd say people are most concerned about the twin avatars breaking the established lore, but this isn't necessarily the case. Saying this broke the lore is like saying Rava and Vatu broke the pre-established lore, because Roku credits the glow or the avatar state to the combination of all the past avatars working together. Obviously, we learn in Korra that this is actually caused by the light spirit Rava inhibiting the avatar. A similar thing could easily be done with the twin avatars, where the lore changes for whatever reason. Now, I know what you're all commenting. I get it, man. You're gonna bring up that Roku had a twin brother, and he wasn't the avatar. This is a weird argument to bring up for a few different reasons. Mainly, Roku is a Wan era avatar. Korra changed everything as the avatar. The past lives are gone, and she literally absorbed Vatu. These implications alone bring up so many different avenues to explain why there's 2 avatars now. I'm not going to be diving deep into this video why there's 2 avatars. I did that in my last video, so if you want to learn more about that after this one, go check that out. If you're willing to give twin avatars a chance, there is a ton of ways this could be done well and interesting. It could easily hit a lot of interesting story beats. For example, what if one twin is loved and the other isn't? What if one is stronger than the other? How will this affect them? How will this affect the world? What if the twins split up and now we can follow 2 different heroes' journeys? There's so many different scenarios that could happen, and having 2 main protagonists helps break up the whole chosen one thing that the previous series had. The most likely scenario here, at least in my opinion, is that Pavi is the light avatar and Nisha will be the dark avatar. But that doesn't mean one of the avatars has to be evil. At the end of the day, Vatu is just chaos. He himself may not like humans, and he did corrupt spirits specifically to attack humans, but that has nothing to do with the dark avatar. Now wait, before I lose you, I wouldn't just make that claim out of nowhere. In the shadow of Kyoshi, Avatar Karuk tells Kyoshi about spirit possession and how spirits can possess and merge with human bodies, but the human will remain in complete control of their action and thoughts. At the end of the day, Unalaq was evil because he was evil, and not because Vatu made him evil. One question I've seen asked over and over again is, who is this series even for? And I get it. I really do. A lot of people are afraid that this show is going to be too kiddie. I've even seen people say, just send this to Nick Jr. already. I don't want it. They think the show is going to be like a baby show. I understand this concern because Korra was a lot more mature than Atla, with many infamous and memorable scenes like Zahir killing the Earth Queen, Korra being poisoned and borderline tortured, and Plea's head literally exploding. But as we all know, Atla, despite being a kid's show, still had plenty of dark undertones. The war itself, Zuko being brutalized by his own father, the mass slaughter of the air nomads. Realistically speaking, Pavi and Nisha aren't that much younger than Aang, just a couple of years. I have a really hard time imagining that they would just regress this show to be more kiddie than Atla, especially considering we already know the world is going to be post-apocalyptic and there's a military draft happening. On the other hand, one of the kids that posted leaks to Reddit said, and I quote, "The show seems to be aimed at kids but can still be enjoyed by adults." But that very same quote can be applied to Avatar: The Last Airbender. There are plenty of shows out there involving children that are mature, such as Stranger Things, and there are real benefits to having child main characters. If you want to play with themes of maturity or growing up, it could be that Pavi and Nisha have to grow up really fast considering the harsh world they live in and the difficult responsibility they've been handed. As for who this show is really for, is it for a new generation of fans or is it for fans of the previous shows? Realistically, there are arguments for both sides. Avatar Studios has made concerted efforts to introduce kids to Aang. I mean, who else could this Roblox game be for? But also, hopefully, they know that a huge portion of their existing audience are now adults, and they wouldn't enjoy something too kiddie. So, the four nations are gone, and I think that's okay. The first and most important thing I want to acknowledge is that the four nations aren't actually gone. In one piece of concept art, we could see Pavi near ruins of what is clearly Omashu. So while the four nations as governing entities no longer exist, their presence in history will still be in the series. So if you're worried that they effectively just wiped the slate clean, that's not actually true. I want you guys to think about realistically what a show set in the four nations after Atla would look like. We have already gotten that show. It was called The Legend of Korra, and Korra did next to nothing with the setting of Avatar. So much of Korra was set in Republic City, and that was actually a borderline necessity. Atla has already told so many stories in the Four Nations that it's hard to have new stories in that setting without just repeating the same old stuff we've seen before. If they tried to redo that stuff with Korra, it wouldn't have been good a second time. It would have just felt like a hollow callback. Maybe it would have worked if the Atla world was bigger than what we saw in the original show, but as far as I know, we essentially saw the entire world. I mean, look at this map, man. The Atla world is tiny. This is the same reason why I think a post-apocalyptic setting is a nice change of pace. You see, the Wastelands and the Havens, we've never seen any stories told with them before. There are a lot of opportunities here for some really cool adventures and new lore. We'll get to see how the people of the Avatar world adapt to such a drastic change in their environment. And this is just my personal feelings, but if this means we're returning to a more low-tech setting, I'm all here for it. I was never the biggest fan of Korra's Industrial Revolution setting. I think bending just works better with the fantasy/magic setting, which it's looking like this could be. The point is, this is still going to be Avatar, and the history of Avatar is still going to be there. Who knows, maybe there's even going to be a plot point about trying to rebuild that. Does Seven Havens retroactively ruin the achievements of Aang and Korra? And this is a take I've seen a lot, and honestly, I'm kinda surprised anyone would say this. It's like people have this idea that after Korra or Atla, that the world should just be perfect forever, no more bad things ever again. No Avatar has ever had total peace in their time. There have been periods of peace, but at the end of the day, there is always new problems and new threats to deal with. There's multiple books out there of previous Avatars, and surprise, surprise, there's serious conflicts in the world. Aang inherited the problems of Roku's era, Korra inherited the problems of Aang's era. Clearly, you can see the trend here. Pavi and Nisha are going to be inheriting the unsolved problems of Korra's era. That's just how storytelling works. If there are no conflicts, no problems, like what, you want to see Pavi and Nisha sitting around on their iPad all day? A lot of fans have especially taken issue with the whole Korra destroyed the world thing, and yeah, I know, I'm not the biggest fan of that personally, but I think it's important to keep in mind that this doesn't necessarily mean that Korra's the worst avatar or evil or anything like that. My understanding is that Korra was forced to destroy the world. This could mean a lot of different things. This could mean it wasn't her decision. This could mean maybe if she didn't do this, all of humans would have gone extinct. Basically, maybe she did a bad thing, but the bad thing stopped an even worse thing from happening. You know, that sort of thing. I just don't see Avatar Studios making Korra evil at this point. We don't even know if Korra dies destroying the world. This is an assumption a lot of people are making. We don't know for sure she dies during this moment. For all we know, she could be the person responsible for making the Seven Havens and evacuating people into them. If anything, I think Seven Havens will be a good chance to build Korra's character more, especially if we get her mentoring Pavi or Nisha, which is something I'd love to see. As a final thing, I personally like that Mike and Brian aren't playing this safe. They could have easily adapted the comics or novels if they wanted to do something safe and easy. The work is already there with easy potential for multiple seasons already planned out and scripted. Bryke made a lot of changes, a lot of big changes from Atla to Korra, and you can argue all day whether you like Korra or not, but what they did was really bold, and it helped Korra stand out from Avatar. Can I just take a moment and point out how ironic it is that everyone lost their minds over the original creators leaving the Netflix production, but now those same people won't even bother supporting a show made by the original creators as a sequel. Listen, I'm not saying this show is guaranteed to be good. Both Atla and Korra had problems. Admittedly, Korra, slightly more problems there, but still, I'm going to give the new series a fair shot, and I'm hoping you guys will too. Assuming there aren't going to be any more major leaks. This is it, guys. I'm done talking about Seven Havens. 4 videos in a row. I'm out.